Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 4-Point Play podcast, where two European mates discuss 3
and 1
NBA topics every week. My name is Alberto from the Philippines. We have Samy on the line from Melbourne. How are you, Samy? How was this week?
Good, very good, thank you. Had a good week. Summer has arrived in Australia, so it's temperatures are rising up. It's going to be 35 tomorrow, 36 the next day, and then 19 again. We're in for a treat.
Weather.
Exactly, the typical Melbournian weather. But I'm already sweating today. It's actually not because of the heat, but it's also because I just came back from training session. I still believe that I can make it to the NBA, so I got to train for that.
Yeah, and I think you got a couple of years until you definitely need to give it up.
Definitely, man.
So I want to jump. I want to go right into our first topic because obviously there's been a bit of unexpected news yesterday. Fred Hoiberg has been fired by the Chicago Bulls right after Mark Cannon made his debut, his yearly debut. Obviously, the Bulls didn't play very well this year. They're only 520. Not what they expected, especially considering the acquisition of Jabari Parker. But what I don't want to ask you anything in particular regarding Hoiberg and the Bulls. I want to split the two topics into two individual ones. I want to ask you about Fred Hoiberg. When he was hired by the Bulls 2.5 years ago, everyone was very hopeful. His college career was quite good. Everyone was speaking highly about him. His nickname was the Mayor. He played in Minnesota. He played in Indiana, very respected in the NBA. But he ended up being like a big disappointment. Also, one of the rumors that got out of the locker room was that he wasn't able to hold players accountable. There was one player that not many know. His name is Blakeney. He was subbed out of the game like a week ago. And apparently what he said is he told Hoiberg, "Why the fuck are you taking me out? Why the fuck are you taking me out? Like, do you have a brain or what?" So my question to you is, because I know that Fred Hoiberg, he's actually declared that he still wants to coach at the NBA level. Can a team risk and make a bet on Fred Hoiberg again? And regardless of Fred Hoiberg, what are the Bulls going to do? What's the Bulls front office going to do? Because this is going to be, obviously the Bulls have John Paxson and Gar Forman, and this is going to be the next one they're going to hire, their 5th full-time head coach in a very short period of time. What's going to happen to the Bulls? Like, it's a complete mess. They have no future. They have players with a lot of future, but you can't really feel it in Chicago right now. So you have 2 questions for one topic. The ball is in your court.
You're trying to cram as much as possible into one question, one topic. Look, it's interesting. We spoke about the Bulls last week, obviously, and I was quite high in saying, hey, maybe this team is going to be all different now that Fred Hoiberg finally has his full cast, with Markkanen coming back and Chris Dunn and Bobby Portis, etc. And well, one game in from Markkanen, and bang, Fred Hoiberg, goodbye, thank you for coming. You're no longer welcome. I think this was a long time coming. I think the Bulls have been brewing that for a little while, and I think they were just waiting for a moment. I don't know why they picked Markkanen's return to do that, to get rid of Fred. I don't know what will happen with Hoiberg. I think, unfortunately, he wasn't given the team that his coach style suit, basically. So like his coaching style is pace and space, is the new era of the NBA. It's Golden State Warriors kind of, lots of shooters, playing the 3, strong defense, collective, lots of ball movement, etc. And he never really had the cast to do that. Zach LaVine now, the point guards he has now, the experiment with the end of the Butler era, Dwayne Wade, Rondo. I mean, he had high IQ players, but he never really had the the buy-in from anyone about his system. So he was never really given the keys of saying, okay, here's, you know, a brand new franchise, or like, we're rebuilding, do whatever you want and take all these young players and do whatever you want with them. I think he had a mismatch of a cast and tried to do something. Now, his problem was that he couldn't, I think, have his authority on the players. I agree with you. I don't know why he wasn't able to do that, but I think, and in today's NBA, you know, when it is a superstars league, the game is going to be driven by your NBA superstars. Once Butler was gone, once Wade was gone, once Rondo was gone, there were no superstars in Chicago. So everyone should have just listened to the coach and do what he said. For some reason, guys like Antonio Blakeney, Zach LaVine calling the plays, you know, at the end of, I think at the end of the regulation in one of the recent games.
But that's what LeBron is doing in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah, but LeBron is different. You know, LeBron is not Zach LaVine, or Zach LaVine is not LeBron. Let's not, you know, confuse this. And I think Fred Hoiberg can find another team if he wants to. I think if I was him, I would be careful about where do I sign. I think it was good for him to get an entry point into the NBA, to sign with whichever team was open for him, and it was the Bulls. It didn't work, even if they gave it a try for a few years. But, you know, another cast, another situation, maybe a better owner, a better president, and a better manager.
Yeah. That's what we said
can go a long way into making it work. You know, so I'm hoping it doesn't go to the Knicks. I'm hoping it doesn't go to Sacramento. But instead goes to a good, you know, a solid team, where he can rebuild or be, I guess, a regular coach, you know.
Which is going to be difficult, because in the NBA it seems like there are a few layers, and whenever you have a bad experience, it's going to be very difficult for you to be called by a higher level team. So I think it's going to be called by a team who's coming from 3 to 5 years of nothing, probably in the 25th to 30th seed in the standings. But I think it will be good for him to go back to college, because the NBA is a players' league. And sorry, aside from a few ones, I'm talking about even Tyronn Lue, Doc Rivers, and, you know, Steve Kerr, and Terry Stotts as well, Carlisle. Those are coaches that are respected, but there are some coaches that get in, and like JB Bickerstaff, he did really, like, if I'm not mistaken, he was the interim coach for the Houston Rockets when they lost in the first round a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, when they fired McHale. But then he got back to Memphis. You know, there was an opportunity in Memphis. He didn't do well last year, but still, probably because of the respect that he has earned, and probably because his dad has been in the NBA for a long time, he earned his coaching position this year, and he's doing really well with Memphis.
Yeah, look, I didn't know Hoiberg was thinking of going back to the NBA. I thought that he would just go back to college. He was just so successful over there. The path for him may be just to be an assistant coach in a really good team, you know, and just wait for the next opportunity. I think, you know, you can go and say, okay, I'm going to be the head coach of another shitty team, or you can. I don't think he has any particular, you know, pride in saying, well, I'm not going to be an assistant coach. And I don't know, say he goes to whatever, Dallas or San Antonio, or I don't know, a good, well-functioning team, or at least a good supporting cast, you know, in how they run a good supporting organization, you can have a fresh start. I wouldn't bury the guy just because he didn't succeed in Chicago, when really he didn't have. It's not all his fault. He may have a part of responsibility, but it's not all his fault. So, and I think some teams are going to be smart enough to see that. Yeah,
I think that potentially Minnesota will be a good place for him next year, depending on how Thibodeau.
Yeah, well, he can't keep chasing Thibodeau, right?
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, man,
I don't think Jimmy Butler. Well, Butler is not there anymore. That's true. would let him there. But yeah, and the other part of your question, man, I don't know what the Bulls are going to be. I think the interim coach apparently is Thibodeau 2.0, so someone who's very hard on the players and who is very intense, I guess, during the games and in workouts and practice sessions, etc. So we'll see if they go that way or if they choose to hire another coach. I think if I'm the general manager or the president, I say again, this is a rebuild year. Try and develop Markkanen, see what you have with Markkanen and Levine, possibly with Wendell Carter Jr. as well. See what you have, possibly do a few trades, maybe bring one veteran if need be, just to have some stability in the locker room. But you don't have to, and just go from there and wait out the season, get a good pick, and continue the rebuild process. It's hard for Chicago to do that because it's a big market, and they will have aspirations to be in the playoff every year, even if sometimes they just can't do it. So they got to be smart about it.
NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. So see what Markkanen develops. He had a couple of good games already. He was supposed to be limited to 28 minutes today. He played 34, I think, or 32. They're playing him. He's good. He's got a good shooting stroke. They don't play defense, but that's not why they pay players anymore. So just play it out and see what comes up. They're not at the bottom of the standings on the Eastern Conference, and they should stay there.
So talking about the Eastern Conference, 3 days ago or 4 days ago, we had probably one of the most unexpected and most spectacular dunks I've seen this year. Our friend Mario brought Hezonja dunking on Greece, not just on Antetokounmpo, but on Greece, and then he stared him down. And after the game, they were interviewing the two players. Hezonja said, honestly, if you're afraid, this is not for you. If you feel fear, this is not the place for you. This is New York. New York is not a place for you, the Greek freak, and this team is not a place for you. And, Hezonja is that kind of, I'm like, dude, you haven't proved anything in the NBA. But then what Giannis said, and by the way, Giannis dunked on the team, on the New York Knicks, not on Hezonja, I think 4 to 5 minutes later. And Hezonja, by the way, had 2 points in that game. 2 points.
Yeah.
And Giannis said, he was asked, what do you think of Hezonja, and what if he's going to step over him again? What's going to happen next time? And he said, I'm going to punch him in the stands next time. So obviously, and finally, a little bit of a real trash talking. We have sometimes Embiid, but Embiid is more like a guy who loves banter, who loves to just make fun of the fact that he's really good. And then Whiteside and Drummond, they're not. By the way, he's a really good friend with Drummond. And, my question is just related to the trash talking, to the trash talk. Both you and I were born in the 80s. We grew up watching basketball in the mid 90s, end of start of 90s. So from the 1990 to 2000, and I remember Miami playing the Heat. Miami playing the Knicks. These big brawls, even Kobe against Reggie Miller. There was a lot of trash talking. Gary Payton, obviously. I read an interview of Gary Payton last week. He said, the first few times Jason Kidd played against me, and Jason Kidd and Gary Payton are both from Oakland in California. Jason Kidd wasn't talking to me. Right now, obviously, with all the social media, it's different kind of trash talk. Players, they do play Fortnite. They do go out. They do a lot of stuff together. But back then, it was trash talk. I'm gonna fucking kill you because I want to win.
Yeah, it's even worse than trash talk. I think the guys just didn't like each other, and there was a real sense of I'm on this team, you're on that team, and you're my enemy, and I'm going to kill you, or at least destroy you, not necessarily kill you literally, but I'm going to destroy you. And on the court, we're not friends. I think today,
and also, sorry to interrupt you, at the same time, there were not obviously like big teams, like 5-star teams, and players were staying longer in a team. So that created kind of a sense of belonging to a team and to a city, and lots of rivalries in the playoffs. So what do you think? Do you miss those times? Are you okay with this NBA from a trash talk point of view?
So, I do miss those times, but I think everybody is nostalgic. When you grow up, it's just normal. Before was always better. But I think to me, what's more interesting is that I do like when there is obviously competition, and when it's real, I guess, and when it's kind of bleeds out a little bit outside of just the court and the basketball. I think it's to me, it's more than just trash talk. Hezonja dunking on Giannis was just, I think, a set of circumstance. I think when he stepped over him, he realized what he did at the same time. I was like, ooh, this is gonna be a moment. There is no competition between the two. I think it doesn't really matter. But I do miss that, and ultimately, the players today are much smarter, and they're trained. They're trained on this to know that, hey, this is a business before everything else. Unfortunately for the game, I think, because sometimes you lose that competition between the players, and that edge of saying, I'm going to destroy you. I think you still see that in the playoffs sometimes. Last year we had Washington and Boston kind of rivalry. You've always had, I think, I don't know, OKC and Houston, or Westbrook and Beverly, at least.
Joe Ingles and everyone.
Yeah, but he's a little bit like Embiid, he likes to, it's soft trash talking. But you still see that in the playoffs when guys are competing. During the season, it's much less likely, much less often that it happens, because guys know, hey, it's one game out of 82. I don't want to get a fine. I don't want to, get suspended for 15 games and cause trouble to my team, etc. So yeah, look, I liked it. The move that Hezonja did, I think he didn't step over Giannis on purpose. Giannis was there. He tried to, he dunked on him. He was proud. I think he had total right to do that. I think the media blew it up to make it something. I think Giannis' response was like, whatever, man, like you don't matter to me. I'm don't disrespect me, kind of. Then later he apologized for his comments, saying that he shouldn't have said that because he's a model and kids look up to him, etc. And to me, that's the business side. That's media or the team getting into his ear and saying, hey, you can't say that. Remember that there are 7-year-olds watching you playing ball, and you got to be smart about it. And
your PR manager
jerseys, and if you're a bad guy and you say bad things, then it sells less jerseys and less tickets. So don't do that. Basically, that's the word, unfortunately. And I think I miss that, but at the same time, I understand why it is the way it is. We'll never get back to the 90s, craziness.
What was your favorite trash talker back then?
I think I like Peyton because he just could run his mouth the whole game, non-stop. Yeah. Reggie Miller was obviously quite good as well. It's interesting because he's one of the players that I love hating. I didn't really like the guy, but you gotta appreciate how. I don't know, some of the iconic moments in the NBA around trash talk are him, the choking part and things like that.
Let's get into a subtopic for a while. If you think about Reggie Miller's career, seriously, he only played for Indiana. He took the Indiana Pacers to the NBA Finals, where, by the way, in Game 1 against the Lakers, he shot 2 out of 16. Hashtag NBA history. But what a player, man. Like taking Indiana and those times where you had the Bulls, you had Detroit, New York, you had Boston, and taking Indiana to that level, obviously with the help of Larry Brown and Larry Bird. But then that was amazing. That was amazing. So, man, I'm talking about Reggie Miller, obviously, for a reason, and trash talk, because I think trash talk, as we said, was big in the 80s and in the 90s. Do you remember the last time the San Antonio Spurs missed the playoffs?
Well, wasn't it 20 years ago? I think I saw the stat some time ago. I don't remember it. I think I know that it was kind of like 22 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, so it was 1997. So they made the playoffs in 27 of the last 28 season. And they only missed the playoffs 4 times since entering the NBA. So,
wow.
Obviously, it's Christmas. It's not even Christmas. I know you're going to say, Alberto, don't overreact. They're 11-13. Don't overreact. It's only December 5th. Yes. Same question as per the Utah Jazz last week. They've been blown out a couple of times. Very unusual for the Spurs. And to be honest, over the last couple of years, some of their front office decisions have been quite questionable. You know, they've given a 2-year contract for $50 million to Paul Gasol. They let Simmons leave. Obviously, Simmons is not a big player, but still, they let him go. They let Boban Marjanovic go. They let Aaron Baines go. We're not talking about franchise players here. And they also let Dwayne Dedmon go. I think, sorry, I think I was incorrect. They actually gave Paul Gasol a 3-year contract for $60 million a year. And they gave Dame Patty Mills a $40 million. So right now, obviously, they've been very, very unlucky. You know, DeJounte Murray got injured right before the season started. And also, they traded, you know, Parker, but that was unfortunate. What are the Spurs going to do? That's my question for you. They lost to Utah by 34 last night. The Spurs are not gonna win the title. The Spurs are not gonna, you know, even Popovich. As much as I love Popovich, he said this new game where the 3-point shots are like the most important thing. I don't like it. Do you feel like it's time for a revolution in San Antonio where Pop retires, and you know San Antonio just rebuilds? Because it looks like Popovich is not. I don't know if he's not willing to keep up to the new trends in the NBA, or if he's just not good for this era. He's an excellent, you know, Hall of Famer. But what's going to happen to the Spurs? What would you do if you were RCB for?
You know, I think it is the end of an era. It is the end of the trio, then duo, then unique. Tony Parker, Ginobili, and Tim Duncan, and it's hard to let go. And I think they've been certainly shattered by the overall unexpected, even if it was very long, departure of Kawhi. I think this hurt them mentally a lot more than what they thought it was going to be, because it's a big blow for an organization which was so respected by the players as maybe one of the best run organization in the league. And for a player of Kawhi's caliber to say basically, well, I don't trust you guys and I'm going away. I'm summarizing, but that's kind of the idea, was a big blow. I think Pop is probably his last year. He's got the Olympics anyway.
Wow, last year.
I think so. I don't think, I mean, I don't know, but I don't see him re-signing for another year. I don't know where he's at in his contract, or you know how many years he's signed for. So he might he might finish his contract. But knowing the Spurs, they might also just find a way for him to kind of retire and move on.
Sorry to interrupt you. Regarding,
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to rebuild as such, but you know, like when they hit the lottery with Tim Duncan, they were back in the playoffs the next year, you know, and like they were really good again. And who knows, maybe they're the ones who are gonna get Zion, you know, in the next draft, and it's going to be Spurs 3.0 all over again, and maybe the start of a new dynasty. Who knows? I don't know yet. They might still be able to turn it around. Obviously, DeRozan is not Kawhi. He's nowhere near the same caliber. Losing DeMarais was a big blow, but it's not like they're losing LaMarcus or DeRozan, like one of their supposedly franchise players. So I think it's just they don't know who they are anymore. You know, they live by the mid-range shot with LaMarcus and DeRozan. I think you cannot choose. Like if I was to pick two players in the whole NBA who live in the mid-range, three players. I'd probably pick these two and maybe Wade. And you know, two of them are in the Spurs, and I'm not saying that they should all shoot threes, you know, but it's really hard when you have a different identity which goes against the rest of the game, which is not without having, I guess, a strong defensive stance, which they're not that great on defense anymore. You look at the Grizzlies, you know, and the reason they're successful is they may not, you know, shoot a lot of threes, but at least some, you know, the grit and grind is back, the slow pace, they wear teams out, and most importantly, they have a collective way of playing where the ball just flows. You know, they're
yeah.
I wouldn't say the new Spurs, but like, you know what I mean. Like the ball moves.
140 points from the Utah Jazz. It just
and that's and the Utah Jazz have been up and down. So for them to you know beat the Spurs by that many, granted it was in Utah, but still it's not like. Yeah, I think I don't know what will happen with the Spurs. It's, you know, if I go with, hey, hold on, they've had 20 plus seasons in the playoffs. Maybe you say, well, Popovich will find the secret formula and they'll turn it around in the second half of the year. But right now, it's really difficult to see. Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks for your answers, first of all. And I think it's time for, you know, I was shooting and there was a clear foul. The ref didn't call it, but then they called it. You know, they had to review it, and there's a foul.
Is that going to be a 4-point play? That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, it's a pretty good transition to my topic, actually, because I wanted to talk about the Raptors and more specifically about Kawhi. So, man, we couldn't have planned this. We couldn't have planned this even better. My question to you about Kawhi and the Raptors is simple. So we're you know, quarter in the season. Kawhi is not a very talkative guy, as we all know. So obviously, no one has any indication as to what he's going to do next year. My question to you is: the Raptors are obviously doing pretty well. You know, they're sitting at the top of the ladder in the East. I think they even have the best record in the NBA right now. So that's pretty good. They won a few convincing games. I think in the game against the Warriors was, you know, both teams won. The Raptors needed to win to say, well, we can beat the defending champs, and the Warriors lost, but they said, well, we took it to overtime without Steph Curry and without Draymond, so we're pretty good. But my question to you on the Raptors and Kawhi is, if you are Masai Ujiri right now, what is your level of confidence out of 100 that Kawhi is going to re-sign? Do you think that you are currently doing everything you can to get Kawhi to re-sign at the end of the season?
Well, man, first of all, if you're someone like the general manager of the Raptors, you cannot be 99% sure. You have to be 100% sure. He was 100% sure when he made it, and everyone said, "Why are you signing Kawhi?" And now, after such a great start, everyone's like, "Oh, Kawhi is loving it. Best team in the NBA. Why wouldn't he be confident right now?" What I think he needs to do, and he's doing, is focusing on the season. And I think what I've noticed is Kawhi's been a little bit more vocal. He's been complaining a little bit more to the refs. He's also just signed a multi-year shoe endorsement with New Balance. There's Drake there. And he said, what he said, he's a simple guy. I don't know him, obviously, but he said, aside from the weather, there's no difference between Toronto and San Antonio. So I think that Kawhi is probably kind of a nerdy guy. He likes he's very comfortable. So who knows? If he loves Toronto, he might stay. Dude, if you ask me that question, no one knows Kawhi apart from his uncle.
So, no one knows Kawhi, but I'm asking you the question: if you're Masai, your level of confidence right now?
It's high. It's high, and it's as high as it was when I signed him. And you know why? Because in order to do that deal, you gotta be 100% confident. The good thing is, best case scenario, they make it to the finals, and he resigned Kawhi. Worst case scenario, which I don't think is gonna happen, they lose in the first round. But I think they're definitely gonna get to the semifinals, maybe to the Eastern Conference, probably to the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe to the final. And then if Kawhi leaves, you know what? They don't have to worry about DeRozan's big contract. And to get rid of it, they can rebuild. They can start from Valanciunas. They probably trade Lowry. They'll replace him with VanVleet, and they will just start rebuilding. But at the same time,
but then this will be labeled as a failure, like as a year when we gave it a try, but it didn't work, and so we're rebuilding. To me,
I disagree, because Toronto. Sorry to interrupt you. Toronto was going to rebuild anyway. After last season, they decided to postpone the rebuild by 1 year. They said, you know what, DeRozan, why don't you go to the Spurs? We think we have a chance to win this year, and we don't want to rebuild right now. We want to give it another chance. I think we can do it. And you know why? It's a bet. And I think eventually they will win the bet. And if they don't, they still have a really good team, because the roster right now is pretty good.
Yeah, but it's not as good as Boston or Philly, I think.
It's not as good as that, but think about it.
With Kawhi, it's good, but my problem right now with Kawhi is that I haven't seen any sign from him that he's really loving it. And him saying, oh, well, apart from the weather, it's the same as the Spurs. Well, he left the Spurs. He didn't want to stay in the Spurs. So what does that mean to you? To me, it means, well, maybe he's not so happy about it. Like I want to see Kawhi being like, oh, like what Paul George did last year. I think we had some hints along the way that Paul George was at least happy with the situation and wanted to give it a try, regardless of what was going to happen in the playoffs. And I know Kawhi is pretty secretive guy and doesn't talk too much, but it would go a very, very long way if that's how he feels, if he was to say that in the public, something very similar, saying, we have a good group of guys and I'm starting to gel and bond with them or whatever, even if it doesn't.
But why would
it go a long way? Well, what's his objective? What is he trying to achieve here? Is he trying to just bounce teams every year? Is he trying to get to the Lakers? I think, if you're, I don't know, if he doesn't say anything, they give it a try, it doesn't work, like it doesn't serve any purpose for anyone apart from, I guess, like just making him like a guy you'll never know really what is going to happen in the future. And a lot of teams will want to sign him in the offseason. Everyone will be knocking on his door. Yes, but then 2 years into his new deal with, I don't know, the Clippers or whatever. What if they have no kind of like sign that he's happy or he's not happy. Well, maybe they say, well, you know what? He burned 2 teams before. Maybe we just trade him. And he ends up just being a guy who, has no identity, has no teams that he goes with. And also, I love cornrows, but he's got to drop them. They're old-fashioned. They no longer belong to that era. So he's got to change his haircut.
Yeah, man. And you know what? Like at the end of the day, also they need to be careful because Kyle Lowry is also 32. He's going to be 33 in March next year. So he's definitely he's definitely not young. He's got a 29 million salary on his shoulders. But I think that's what the Raptors needed to do in order to stay where they want and deserve to be, because Toronto's such a great fan base.
I'm not saying it's a bad deal. I think they were, and certainly the start of the season proves them right, that they were right to do it. I think if I'm the president, at the moment, my level of confidence is probably a little bit, to me, I would say is a little bit less than what it was when I signed him. Because by now, come Christmas time, I would have liked to have just a sign that, that he's liking it here.
But he's probably not out there.
Nothing prevents Masai from saying, well, you know what, screw you. Well, I'm going to trade you now and get a couple of players back, and we still can try and give it all this year, I don't know.
Man. Seriously, if it's March, who do you think is going to get? It's going to get some expiring contracts. Kawhi has little...
Well, the Spurs traded him for DeRozan, so like you can still get a good
who's
caliber
gonna trade?
player.
Like who? The Lakers are gonna say?
I don't know.
Hey,
Say you get.
That would be mad, man. You just got me. You just made it very interesting.
Get Tobias and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Damn. You know what? Now I'm excited about March. And when is it? No, it's actually February, right?
What, the trade deadline is February? Yeah, but I
February.
think players who were traded in the offseason can be traded again in 15 December. So watch out for Carmelo being traded around that time. I think Houston has something cooking. They're just waiting for, I guess, the right period of time for that trade to happen, which is going to be 15 December.
Look out for Ariza as well.
Cool.
All right, man. So, I got an extra timeout here that the refs just
hey,
question.
Before we do that, I got a question because we didn't sort that out. So we already have answered to one of the questions which happened. I don't know if we spoke about it last week or not. Do we not reveal anything and make a big reveal? Like, we'll do a special episode, I think, at the end of the year where we go through all the questions one by one and what happened. But let's just say that someone's leading already.
Really? And that's you.
It may not be you.
All right. So let me ask you today's question.
What's your question?
So, I was having a look at the standings. Obviously, it's been a different season. My question is, how many teams are going to cross the 60 wins line this year?
Oh, how many did we have last year? Can I get that?
Last year we had the Rockets only, and the 2 years before, I think we had Golden State and San Antonio.
Do I have to say which team?
Preferably, because you're already leading. So, But you don't have to say any team if your answer is none.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about as well. Okay, I'm going to say one team, and that's the Raptors. I think the Raptors will end up with the best record of the season.
Wow. Okay, right now they are 25, if I'm not mistaken.
20-5, yeah.
20-5, and that's a projection for 62, 63.
Oh, you have the projections. Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, man, in my brain. And it's probably incorrect. It's probably incorrect. So yeah, that's it. Okay, man. Well, thanks a lot. It's been a lot of fun as well today. The pace is getting better and better. We're doing well. We just missed some visitors.
Well, yeah,
you know.
for those listening, for the millions of players of people listening, the only one thing that I wanted to add is you can start hitting us on Twitter. And do you want to give the Twitter handle? Do you have it, or do you want me to give it? Because it's a very simple one. It's the 4-point play P1 with all the numbers in numbers. So let me repeat that: the 4-point play P1. P1 for podcast 1, because we're gonna have a lot of podcasts. But yeah, hit us up on Twitter if you feel like it. We're going to post this podcast as well on Twitter, but you can follow us on iTunes. And yeah, looking forward to another discussion next week.
Just find us. Just look up for us. All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Alberto.
You have a great week.
You too. Peace.
Bye-bye.